The sun burned overhead like it was personally offended by anyone daring to enjoy the day as I parked my sensible hybrid at the edge of Pinewood Estates Community Green. The place was already packed with the usual parade of polished SUVs and luxury sedans belonging to the approved residents who'd shown up early to kiss the ring. My arms balanced Grandma Edith's secret barbecue dish, the one she'd whispered the recipe to me alone on her faded floral couch 3 summers ago, right before the HOA started circling her like sharks. "You're the only one with the patience to get it right, Delaney," she'd said, her paper-thin hand covering mine. "Don't let them take that from you." I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. 35 years old, professional architect with a master's, leader of a multi-million-dollar sustainable housing initiative, and still feeling that teenage knot in my stomach before facing the Pinewood family. The scent of charcoal and hickory smoke drifted over the manicured lawns that had to be measured weekly with Karen Whitmore's sacred tape ruler. American flags fluttered from every porch column exactly 3 feet high. Any taller, and you get a $250 fine for visual pollution. Red, white, and blue bunting draped across the railings in perfect HOA-approved symmetry. Pinewood Estates, 20-year tradition of pretending we were the perfect American neighborhood, at least until someone questioned the rules or had too many gin and tonics at the block party. I heard laughter spilling from the central green, the familiar cadence of Karen's voice rising above the others like a siren nobody dared ignore, followed by her husband Douglas's appreciative chuckle. Some jokes never needed to be funny to earn his nod of approval. "This time will be different," I whispered, the same lie I'd told myself before every HOA gathering since I moved in. "Dr. Stone's voice echoed in my head from our Thursday session. "Remember, Delaney, your worth doesn't depend on their recognition." Easy for her to say. She wasn't balancing a dish that took 4 hours to perfect while lugging a tote bag stuffed with carefully wrapped peace-offering gifts for the board members. Even for Bob, who last Christmas forgot anything from me while handing monogrammed golf balls to Douglas and a spa package to Marlene. I straightened my shoulders and walked through the side gate to the common area. The familiar tableau unfolded. Long tables under the oak tree, white linen tablecloths glowing in the dappled sunlight, sterling silver gleaming beside china plates that only came out for special occasions. My steps slowed as I counted. 13 people milling around, but only 12 place settings. "Delaney, you made it." Karen floated toward me in her linen dress the color of aged ivory, her smile not quite reaching her Botoxed eyes. She air-kissed near my cheek, careful not to disturb her flawless makeup. "What's this?" She peered at the dish like it might violate Section 4.2 of the Covenants. "Grandma Edith's barbecue." I offered like a peace treaty. "Oh," the slight downer of her mouth said everything. "Well, just put it on the overflow table. We're almost ready to sit." I glanced again. "Karen, there are only 12 plates." She followed my gaze, then waved her hand dismissively, pearls clicking. "We ran out of good china for non-compliant residents. You can just grab a sandwich and eat in the community storage shed. It's climate-controlled. After all, rules are rules." "Dear, your yard last month had unauthorized native plants. Think of the community." The words landed like a slap. Conversations dimmed as board members and neighbors suddenly found their napkins fascinating. "The storage shed?" I repeated, voice distant. Bob appeared beside her, crystal tumbler in hand. "That's more fitting anyway," he smirked. "It's all she's good for these days." Silence hung heavy. I watched Aunt Patricia, board secretary, examine her napkin like it held state secrets. Uncle George stared at the cloudless sky, as if praying for rain to cancel everything. Douglas froze by the grill, spatula mid-flip, choosing silence yet again. Across the table, my neighbor Clara adjusted the sapphire ring on her finger, Grandma Edith's ring. "The one promised to me," sunlight catching the deep blue stone. Beside her, Sabrina stared at her phone, another deliberate non-supporter. I set Grandma's dish carefully on the overcrowded overflow table. 30 years of similar slights crystallized. The community meetings where my sustainable proposals were dismissed while Bob's golf cart upgrades got fast-tracked. The block party they forgot to invite me to while praising everyone else's lawns. The email chain where my full scholarship story was overshadowed by Clara's new patio furniture. Something tectonic shifted inside me. Istud taller. Shoulders squaring with resolve built in DR. Stone's office over months. Actually, I said, voice clear and steady as I reached into my tote. Before anyone eats, I have something for you. Karen. She raised a perfectly arched eyebrow, amusement flickering as I withdrew the envelope. I walked to the head table where she stood, steps measured despite my hammering heart. Eyes followed, discomfort radiating like heat from the July pavement. I placed the envelope on her plate, right next to the sterling silver fork set for her, but not for me. "What's this?" Karen asked, her sugary smile wavering in my calm. "Open it," I said. "I think you'll find it illuminating." The green fell into a hush. Even the oak leaves stopped rustling as if the whole neighborhood waited. Uncle George suddenly found the sky fascinating again. Aunt Patricia twisted her napkin into a coil. Douglas remained frozen, spatula suspended. Karen's fingers tapped the envelope. "Another one of your little eco-projects?" Her voice carried that familiar, dismissive tone, but uncertainty flickered. "Just open it, Karen." She slid her finger under the flap with theatrical slowness, her audience captive. The tear sounded like truth ripping free. When she pulled out the contents, her smirk collapsed. "What the hell is this?" The papers trembled. Page 1 is a screenshot of the email you sent to Evergreen developers last spring. I stepped closer, pointing to the highlighted section. "You told them I was unreliable and fundamentally incapable of handling sustainable projects of that scale. Interesting, since they hire me anyway. And my design just won the Regional Green Award, despite your community concerns memo." Marlene's hand flew to her throat, pearls clicking. "Delaney, this is hardly appropriate for page 2. I continued smoothly. "Is a transcript of your call with Grandma Edith's attorney after she passed, where you claim she told you the sapphire ring was meant for Clara." Clara's fingers instinctively covered the stone. Her eyes darted. "Page 3 is a copy of Grandma's actual will. The highlighted section specifies the ring was intended for me, the granddaughter who actually visited her, not the one who only showed up for photo ops." I turned to Clara. "She didn't change her mind on her deathbed. That was a lie. This is ridiculous." Karen sputtered, but her voice had lost its queen bee authority. The pages slipped, scattering across the linen. "She's always been jealous." Unstable, Douglas picked up one fallen page, color draining from his face as he read, shoulders curving inward like he'd aged a decade in seconds. "Page for might interest the whole board most." "Karen." My voice softened. "Bank statements showing $12,000 withdrawn from the HOA emergency fund 2 weeks before Grandma died. Fund she was trustee for. Withdrawn by you, who somehow convinced her to add your name for medical expenses." Karen interjected quickly. She asked me to. Her medical were covered by Medicare. The hospital confirmed that. Sabrina set her phone down, eyes wide with real surprise for once. "Remember the 2019 holiday party?" Karen pivoted, voice rising. "When she showed up 3 hours late and ruined the vibe. I was late because I was in the ER after a car accident. None of you answered my calls. I still have the hospital bracelet if you'd like that evidence too." Aunt Patricia whispered to Uncle George. "I always wondered about that neck brace." Karen pushed back from the table, chair scraping. "Marlene, tell her this is ridiculous." Marlene's lips parted, but no sound came. For once her perfect hostess smile failed. I've only ever tried to protect the community from her instability, Karen said, desperation creeping in. I watched her, the woman who'd measured my grass with a ruler while preaching neighborly love, try to reassemble her control. Her eyes darted for allies, finding only uncertainty. If this drama continues, I'm leaving, she threatened. Están en taller. This is the last time I try to be seen by this board. My voice carried calm, yet powerful. While you've been telling developers I'm a failure, I've been leading a $2.4 million sustainable housing project 3 towns over. My designs are an architectural digest next month. I've built a life you know nothing about because you never bothered to ask beyond your citations. I looked around at the family who'd never made room. I'm done playing a game I was never allowed to win. Clara slipped the sapphire ring off, placing on the table with a soft clink that echoed. Your plate is in the storage shed, I told Karen, allowing one small smile. That seems fitting now. I walked away without raising my voice or causing a scene, leaving 3 decades of invisibility behind. The American flags fluttered in the breeze, symbols of freedom I was only now tasting. Behind me, the first cracks, Sabrina's quiet, "Did you really send that email?" and Douglas's heavy sigh of silent complicity. For the first time at a Pinewood gathering, I left without apologizing for existing. The tires of my car crunched over the gravel drive of the Cedar Lake an hour later. The white clapboard building stood sentinel against the darkening sky, windows glowing amber. I'd driven on autopilot, knuckles white on the wheel. The innkeeper, silver hair in a loose bun, glanced up as the bell announced me. Her kind eyes took in my linen dress and overnight bag. Reservation for Hayes. The Lake View Suite. She slid the brass key across the oak counter. Just you tonight? I nodded, not trusting more words. The question felt loaded after the shed humiliation. Fireworks at 9, she offered. Best view from the back porch. Coffee and pie too. Thank you. The suite was blues and creams with wide windows over the lake. I set my bag on the quilted bed and stood motionless, listening to the old building settle. Silence wrapped around me. No pointed sighs from Karen. No calculated jabs from Bob. No strained small talk from neighbors pretending not to notice my exile. My phone buzzed for the 12th time. 6 missed calls from Marlene. 3 from Sabrina. 2 from Douglas. 1 text from Clara. None from Karen. I powered it off and set it face down. The absence felt like releasing a 30-year breath. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back seemed clearer, shoulders straighter. I'd expected tears or rage, but found strange calm. You did it, I whispered. The memory of Karen's face replayed, smirk melting to confusion. Alarm, then raw panic as she flipped pages. The evidence I'd compiled for months. Screenshots of her emails to developers bad-mouthing my reliability. Recordings of calls manufacturing stories about my instability, bank statements proving the HOA fund withdrawals, and Grandma's will with the bequest underlined, my sapphire ring, passed to Delaney Edith Hayes, who carries not only the name, but the spirit. Clara's face when she covered the ring, Grandma's ring, my ring, had almost been worth the decades of fines and slights. Almost. An hour later, a knock startled me. Who is it? Sabrina. Came the voice. Of all people, my neighbor, an occasional board ally, the least expected. She stood in the hallway, mascara smudged, clutching her purse. Can I come in? Her voice small, like the woman who once whispered support before learning siding with Karen earned more approval. I stepped aside. Sabrina perched on the blue armchair. Marlene's hysterical, she offered. I'm sure she is. Douglas hasn't said a word. He's just sitting on the porch with those papers. I turned to the window, watching boats gather for fireworks. Did Karen leave? Tires squealing, gravel flying. Bob's car got scratched. A small, uncharitable part of me smiled. Why didn't you ever say anything? Sabrina asked, voice cracking. About the emails, the ring, any of it. I faced her, seeing her clearly for the first time, not as Karen's echo, but someone trapped playing a different role. Would you have believed me? Her silence answered. How did you know where to find me? Martha, your neighbor, told me. I called when you wouldn't answer. She mentioned you talked about this place Grandma Edith used to bring you. The mention pierced my calm. Yes, for my 16th birthday, the only one the board forgot. We'd watched fireworks, eaten blackberry pie, heard her stories. Did you know? I asked. About the fund withdrawals? About her convincing Clara the ring was hers? Sabrina shook her head, tears spilling. I didn't want to know. It was easier not to see. My phone lit up Douglas's name. I turned it back on unconsciously. Beside it, Clara's text. Left something with the innkeeper for you. I'm sorry. Outside, the first firework exploded in red. Sabrina flinched. She always made sure we were on her side, she said over the booms. Remember when she told everyone you'd broken the community fountain rules? I was 8. She did it. I saw, but she said if I told, no one would believe me anyway. He was right. Another blue explosion lit her tears. I moved to the window, watching colors burst over the water. Freedom felt heavier, lonelier, but cleaner. What happens now? Sabrina asked. I didn't turn. I don't know yet, but that wasn't entirely true. For the first time, I was writing my own story. One Friday morning at the office, the Mississippi River flowed steady below my window, a constant in a transformed landscape. 3 weeks since the barbecue meltdown, I stood forehead against cool glass, watching a barge push current, my sharper reflection staring back. Delaney? Rachel knocked, pushing the door. Architectural Digest is online. They want a statement on the Cedar Heights project nomination for sustainability excellence. I straightened. Tell them I'll call this afternoon. Need to finalize revisions first. Rachel nodded, hesitated. And there's someone here asking about you. A Mr. Hartwell says he's considering our firm for his lakefront development, but heard some community concerns. The words dropped like a stone. Karen's reach, even 3 hours away. Send him in. The tremor that would have been there a month ago was gone. I settled behind my desk as Rachel showed in a salt and pepper man in his 60s. His eyes lingered on my framed green building award. Mr. Hartwell, please sit. I gestured, not rising. He sank in. Miss Hayes, I'll be direct. A colleague mentioned your HOA president had concerns about your stability. I reached into my drawer, withdrew a folder of recent press clippings on Cedar Heights. Sliding it over, I held his gaze. This $2.4 million project came in under budget and ahead of schedule. The mayor cuts the ribbon next week. 86 families have affordable, energy-efficient homes because of it. You'll find client testimonials inside. My work speaks for itself. His eyebrows lifted. I see. If you'd like to discuss your development, happy to schedule. If you're here to gossip about my personal life, I have a call in 15. He studied me, then smiled unexpectedly. My wife was right about you. He extended his hand. There is no lakefront development. Patricia Hartwell is my wife, your board secretary. The room tilted. Aunt Patricia, who'd stared at her napkin during the barbecue. She wanted me to see if you were really as formidable as she claimed. He chuckled. You passed with flying colors. Uncle George. The name felt odd. Patricia sends love and an invitation. He placed an envelope on my desk. Coffee whenever you're ready. No pressure. After he left, I stood at the window again. Below, he joined a woman on the bench. Patricia in a blue coat I'd never seen her wear without HOA pearls. They walked arm in arm, heads tilted sharing secrets. My phone buzzed. Sabrina. Coffee tomorrow? Just us. I typed back Blackbird Cafe. 10 a.m. The river flowed on, unchanging yet never the same. The cafe buzzed Saturday morning when Sabrina walked in, eyes puffy, hair in messy ponytail unlike her usual polish. "You look different," she said, sliding into the booth. "So do you." She twisted her napkin. "I started therapy last week. Dr. Wilson says I've followed Karen's lead my whole life. I never realized." "You don't need to explain." "No, I do. I'm sorry, Delaney, for everything. For not seeing." I sip coffee, giving space. "Why now?" "After you left, things fell apart. Marlene pretends nothing's wrong. Karen's been calling creditors from Douglas's study. Clara told me about the ring, the will. My fingers touched the empty space where the ring would sit. I kept it boxed for moments that mattered. Did you know she's been lying about the HOA books for years? The investment reserves are practically bankrupt." I thought of the statements in the envelope. Puzzle pieces connected. "Monthly coffee," I said finally. "That's what I can offer now." Relief washed her face. "I'll take it." Outside, autumn painted streets amber and crimson. Fallen leaves scattered as we paused by my car. "How do you do it?" Sabrina asked. "Start over." I unlocked the door. "You stop building on a foundation never meant to support you." Architect of sustainable structures. Architect of my own life. 5 months later, the Christmas tree stood in my living room corner. Adorned not with Karen-approved gold and burgundy ornaments, but an eclectic collection from travels. Miniature copper Guggenheim. Hand-blown Portland spiral. Tiny silver frame with Grandma Edith's last photo. 5 months since the barbecue confrontation, and my apartment finally reflected me instead of pine woods' imagined perfection. Walls, once beige to avoid citations, now deep forest green I'd always loved. Grandma's antique desk sat under the window in winter light. I twisted the sapphire ring, now resized, on my finger. The stone caught morning sun, blue reflections dancing on the ceiling. 3 jewelers had gushed over its quality before I found one who didn't question why a ring clearly meant for me needed resizing from Clara's finger. My phone buzzed. "Sabrina. On our way. Clara's driving. ETA, 30 minutes. The concept still startled me. Neighbor and former ally choosing my gathering over the traditional Pinewood Christmas Eve. Douglas had called yesterday, confirming he wouldn't attend Karen's event either, opting for quiet dinner with his new girlfriend Joan from grief support. 15 minutes later, the doorbell chimed as I arranged cranberry cheese. Too early for them. I glanced through the peephole. Stomach dropped. Marlene stood in the hallway, Karen hovering behind. Both in Christmas best. Marlene's crimson sweater with tasteful gold. Karen's camel hair coat costing more than my mortgage. My phone vibrated. "Douglas." I answered. "Delaney. Marlene and Karen are heading to your place. I tried talking them out, but they're here." I whispered, watching Marlene press the bell again. The chime echoed. "I'm 15 minutes away." Douglas said, "Do you want me to know?" "I've got this." I hung up and opened the door, blocking entry. "Marlene. Karen, this is unexpected." Marlene's practiced smile didn't reach her eyes. "Darling, we couldn't let Christmas pass without seeing you." She stepped forward, but I stayed planted. "I'm hosting friends shortly. You should have called first." Karen's jaw tightened. "Called first? We're your HOA family. Family respects boundaries." I replied, words easier than expected after months of therapy. Marlene's smile faltered. "We've always supported you, Delaney. This ridiculous arrangement has gone on long enough." The old me would have stepped aside. The new me saw manipulation. "No, you've always needed me to be less than I am," I said quietly. Karen stepped forward, towering as always. "Douglas's blood pressure is through the roof because of your selfishness. Is that what you want? To send him to an early grave over imagined slights?" A deep voice cut through. "Don't use me as a weapon, Karen." 10 minutes later, Douglas stood in the hallway. snow on his shoulders. The change startled me most. He stood taller, hunched shoulders squared. Marlene whirled. What are you doing here? You said you had a headache. I lied. Douglas said simply. I'm tired of lying. Karen's face reddened. What is this? Some intervention. You've always thought you're better than us. Haven't you? Delaney? I studied her perfect hair, expensive watch, practiced indignation, and felt unexpected pity. No, Karen, I've always thought I was less. You made sure of it. I gripped the doorframe. If you want any relationship going forward, here are my terms: therapy, individual and group. Respect for my boundaries. Complete honesty. Marlene's hand flew to her throat. This is absurd. We're standing in a hallway on Christmas Eve. Yes, I agreed. Because you arrived uninvited after I made clear I needed space. This is what we get for trying to mend fences. Karen snapped. Come on, Marlene. She's made her choice. Marlene's eyes darted between Douglas and me. Douglas, you're coming with us now. He shook his head. No, Marlene, I'm staying. Something flickered in Karen's eyes, the realization her power had broken. She grabbed Marlene's elbow, steering toward the elevator. I watched them retreat, then turned to Douglas. Would you like coffee? Sabrina and Clara will be here soon. He nodded, tentative smile forming. I like that very much. As I closed the door, the sapphire ring caught the light again. For the first time since Grandma Edith whispered its promise, it truly belonged on my finger. Another July has come, and the sun blazed overhead as I arranged daisies in a blue ceramic vase on my patio table. My new home in Minneapolis gleamed with fresh paint and possibility, a far cry from the Pinewood prison of expectations. Need help with those chairs? Jordan called from the kitchen doorway, sleeves rolled up on tanned forearms. His smile still caught me off guard, genuine, without sharp edges I'd grown used to. I've got it, I said, shifting furniture into conversational circles. Could you check if the ice melted in the coolers? A year had passed since I stood on the community green, envelope in hand, heart thundering. 365 days of rebuilding, learning to exist without bracing for dismissal. The doorbell chimed. My shoulders didn't tense, another small victory. I'll get it, Jordan said, squeezing my shoulder. Douglas's voice filtered through open windows, followed by a woman's warm laugh. I smoothed my sundress and touched Grandma's sapphire ring, not as armor but celebration. There she is, Douglas said as I rounded the corner. His face had softened, worry lines, now smile creases. Beside him stood Catherine, silver-streaked hair and stylish bob, hand resting comfortably in his. The place looks wonderful, she said, offering wine. Douglas mentioned you have an eye for design. But this, she gestured to open concept living with exposed beams and summer wheat walls, feels like home. That's exactly what I wanted, I replied, accepting with genuine smile. Douglas hesitated, then hugged me. His embrace had changed, no longer stiff with unspoken apologies, but present and warm. Happy Independence Day, he said, pulling back to meet my eyes directly, another change. The man who once couldn't hold my gaze now didn't look away. The doorbell rang again. Sabrina and Clara arrived together, carrying matching dessert containers and sundresses in complementary greens. We made Grandma's apple cobbler, Clara announced. The sapphire ring no longer adorned her finger. She'd return it the day after last year's confrontation with a letter I'd read until creases faded. And I didn't even burn it, Sabrina added with a laugh. Her voice carried confidence I'd never heard in childhood. Weekly therapy had straightened her spine and loosened anxious lines around her mouth, though I did call Clara 3 times to confirm the recipe. As afternoon mellowed to evening, my backyard filled with voices of EcoVision colleagues, neighbors who'd become friends, and fragments of the old family who'd chosen truth over comfort. The conspicuous absence of Marlene and Karen hung only for me, and even then felt like relief. Attention, everyone. Douglas stood, tapping his glass as sky burnished gold. People quieted. Catherine squeezed his hand. I like to propose a toast to families we choose and those who choose to change. His voice wavered, but eyes stayed steady. To new traditions and second chances. Glasses lifted. Jordan's shoulder pressed against mine. After dinner, as fireworks blossomed over the Minneapolis skyline, I stood at the garden edge. Jordan passed me a sparkler, tip flaring white-hot. Last year at this time, you were watching fireworks alone from that inn by the lake. He said quietly, "Remember when you told me?" I nodded, watching it trace golden arcs. I thought I was ending something then. I didn't realize I was beginning. Later, guests gone and Jordan asleep, I sat at Grandma's desk by the window. The city still sparkled with distant celebrations. I opened my leather-bound journal, a gift to myself, and wrote by single lamplight. Freedom isn't about walking away forever. It's about walking away long enough to find yourself. I slipped the ring off, pressed it to my lips, then placed it in the carve box. I'd wear it again, but not daily. Some treasures belong to special moments, not everyday battles. Outside, the last fireworks scattered silver across night's black canvas. I no longer needed to prove worth through perfect dishes or wrapped presents. The people who mattered saw me clearly, and at last, so did I.